You know what's funny about power? You never question it until it's stripped away from you in an instant. I'm Douglas Whitmore, 52 years old. I own more real estate than most people will see in their lifetimes. My signature on a contract can change city skylines. My phone calls get returned by governors. But none of that mattered the night my son stopped breathing in my arms and the hospital doors slammed shut in my face. The only person who stopped to help? A janitor making minimum wage who had every reason to walk past me. What she did next didn't just save my son's life. It shattered everything I thought I knew about worth, power, and what it truly means to be rich. Before we dive deeper into this, if you believe that kindness is the true currency that matters in this world, go ahead and hit that like button right now and subscribe because stories like this one need to be heard. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll see why. Now let me take you back to that night, the night that changed everything. I built my empire from nothing. People love that story. The self-made billionaire, the American dream wrapped up in expensive suits and corner offices. I started with one rundown apartment building in my 20s and turned it into a real estate portfolio that spans 12 states. Hotels, commercial complexes, luxury condominiums. My name is on buildings you probably walked past, and I'm proud of that. Or at least, I was. But here's what they don't tell you about building an empire. Every brick you lay in your business, you're probably taking from the foundation of something else. For me, that something else was my family. My wife Caroline died 5 years ago. Cancer. It happened fast and I wasn't ready. Nobody ever is. That left me with our son Tyler. He was 14 then, just a kid trying to understand why his mom wasn't coming home. And what did I do? I buried myself deeper in work because grief is expensive and feelings don't show up on balance sheets. Tyler grew up in penthouses but grew up alone. Nannies raised him while I closed deals. Boarding schools educated him while I attended galas. By the time he turned 19 and started pre-med at university, we were strangers living in the same tax bracket. We'd have dinner maybe once a month. Conversations that felt like business meetings. How are classes? Fine. Need anything? No. That was us. That was all we had left. But this one weekend was supposed to be different. I'd promised him a father-son fishing trip upstate. Just us, a cabin by the lake. No phones, no meetings, no distractions. I'd canceled the same trip 3 times before. 3 times I'd let him down for deals that probably weren't even that important in hindsight. But this time I swore to myself I'd keep my word. And for once I actually did. The cabin was beautiful, remote, peaceful, exactly what we needed. That first day was awkward, both of us trying to remember how to be around each other. But by the second evening, something shifted. We were actually talking. Really talking. He told me about a girl he liked, about his dreams of becoming a pediatric surgeon, about how he sometimes felt invisible even though everyone knew his last name. I saw my son, really saw him, maybe for the first time in years. We were sitting at that cabin table, eating the fish we'd caught that afternoon, and I remember thinking, this is it. This is what I've been missing. This is what matters. Then Tyler said his head hurt. I brushed it off at first, probably just the sun, the travel, nothing serious. But within minutes, his face went pale. He stood up from the table and collapsed before I could reach him, the sound of his body hitting that wooden floor. I'll hear it for the rest of my life. He started seizing, his whole body convulsing, and then nothing, just stillness. His eyes rolled back and he stopped responding to my voice. I've never felt panic like that. Pure, primal terror. I'm screaming his name, shaking him, and nothing. We're 2 hours from the nearest hospital, and my phone has no signal. All my money, all my connections, all the power I'd spent decades building, completely useless. I scooped him up, carried him to my SUV, and drove like a madman down those mountain roads. I was talking to him the whole time, begging him to hold on, promising him everything if he'd just open his eyes. Promising myself I'd be better, do better, be the father I should have been all along. St. Benedict's Hospital appeared like a beacon. Small county facility, nothing fancy, but I didn't care. I carried Tyler through those emergency room doors, and a doctor met us immediately. Young guy, concerned face. He examined Tyler quickly, and his expression told me everything. Severe allergic reaction, possibly anaphylactic shock. His airway is compromising. We need to treat this now. Then treat him, I shouted. Do whatever you need to do. Money's not an issue. That's when the administrator appeared. Middle-aged woman with a clipboard and a rehearsed expression of professional sympathy. Sir, I need you to step over here. We need to verify insurance and get some information. My son is dying, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We can do paperwork after you save his life. She explained that their computer system had crashed earlier that evening. They couldn't access insurance databases, couldn't verify coverage, couldn't process payment. It's hospital policy, Mr. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Whitmore. Douglas Whitmore. I said it like it should mean something, because in my world it did. She didn't even blink. The name that opened doors everywhere else meant nothing here. She explained liability issues, insurance protocols, lawsuit prevention. We can't provide non-emergency treatment without payment verification. If this escalates to life-threatening, we'll stabilize him. But right now, he's turning blue. I was shouting now, not caring who heard. Look at him. What more do you need? I pulled out my wallet, threw every credit card I owned on her desk. Black cards, platinum cards, the ones with no spending limits. Run these. Call my bank. I'll buy the entire hospital if that's what it takes. But she just kept shaking her head, talking about systems being down, protocols, policies. I offered cash. I told her I had jewelry in the car, Caroline's wedding ring, worth more than her annual salary. I started naming properties I owned. I'll sign over a building. Right now, just treat my son. The doctor looked torn, but the administrator's face was stone. County General is 40 minutes south. They have better equipment for cases like this anyway. I really think that's your best option. He doesn't have 40 minutes. I grabbed her shoulders, desperate. Please, please, I'm begging you. That's when security showed up. 2 guards, hands on my arms, pulling me back. The administrator was already on the phone, probably calling the police. The doctor avoided my eyes. And Tyler, my son, my only child, the only family I had left, was lying there dying while I stood 3 feet away, powerless to help him. They escorted me out, actually physically removed me from the building. I was still screaming, still begging, tears streaming down my face. For the first time in my adult life, I had no control, no power, no options, just raw, helpless terror. I was standing in that parking lot, holding my unconscious son, trying to figure out if I could make it to County General in time, when I heard a voice behind me. Sir, please, I can help. I turned and saw her, an older black woman, maybe 60, wearing a janitorial uniform with the hospital logo on it. Kind eyes, weathered hands, the sort of person I'd walked past 1,000 times in my life without ever really seeing. I don't need, I started, but she cut me off. Your boy is dying. I saw what happened in there. That administrator, she's more worried about her job than doing what's right. But I know someone who can help. My daughter. She's a nurse, lives 5 minutes from here. She's got emergency supplies at home. I stared at her, my brain struggling to process. Why would this woman help me? What did she want? Was this some kind of scam? But then I looked down at Tyler, at his shallow breathing and pale lips, and realized I didn't have the luxury of suspicion. What do you want? I asked. Money? I'll give you whatever. We can talk about all that later, she said firmly. Right now we move. My car's right here. Her car was a beat-up Honda that had seen better decades. I carefully laid Tyler in the back seat, climbed in beside him, and this stranger, this janitor whose name I didn't even know yet, drove us through dark streets into a neighborhood I'd never had reason to visit. Chain-link fences, old apartment buildings, streetlights that flickered, the kind of place I'd built my career buying up and bulldozing for luxury developments. She pulled up in front of a small apartment complex and yelled for her daughter before we even got out of the car. Rochelle! Baby, I need you right now. A young woman appeared in the doorway, late 20s, in sweatpants and a t-shirt. Mama, what? Then she saw us, saw Tyler, and her training kicked in immediately. Bring him inside. Quickly. That tiny apartment became an emergency room. Rochelle worked with calm, focused precision, asking me rapid-fire questions about what happened, what Tyler ate, any known allergies. She grabbed what looked like a professional medical kit from her closet. I keep supplies here. Never know when someone in the building might need help. She administered an EpiPen, started an IV, gave him oxygen from a portable tank. Within minutes, Tyler's breathing improved. His color started coming back. She monitored his vitals, adjusted the IV, spoke to him in a calm, soothing voice, even though he was unconscious. She called her hospital county general and arranged immediate admission under her credentials. I stood there watching this nurse work magic in a living room smaller than my bathroom, and I couldn't speak, couldn't process. This woman, this stranger, had just done what a fully equipped hospital had refused to do. The older woman, the janitor, guided me to sit down on their worn couch. She brought me tea in a chipped mug. I noticed everything in that moment. The family photos on the walls, a graduation picture of Rochelle in her nursing uniform, beaming with pride. Pictures of the older woman in different service jobs, always smiling despite the exhaustion in her eyes. A photo of a young man, teenager with a bright smile. Something about that picture felt heavy with absence. "He's going to be okay," she said softly, sitting beside me. "My Rochelle, she's the best. She'll take care of him." "I don't even know your name," I whispered. "Delilah," she said. "Delilah Crawford." "Why?" The word came out broken. "Why are you helping me? You don't know me. I could be anyone." Delilah was quiet for a moment, her eyes drifting to that photo of the young man. "I know what it's like to watch your child suffer while people with power look the other way." She told me about her son, Jerome, 16 years old, diagnosed with a rare autoimmune condition. He needed specialist treatment, experimental medication. Their insurance denied it. Hospitals refused to provide it without upfront payment they couldn't afford. Delilah worked 3 jobs, cleaned offices, including offices at some of the hospitals that turned her away. She was invisible to them, just the woman who emptied their trash and mopped their floors. Jerome died 4 months after his diagnosis. "I cleaned those hospital hallways at night," she said, her voice steady but her hands trembling slightly around her teacup. "Walked past equipment that could have saved him, emptied trash cans of doctors who could have treated him. But we didn't have money. We didn't have insurance. We didn't matter." I felt something crack inside my chest. "I'm so sorry." "I couldn't save my boy," Delilah said, looking at Tyler. "But I could save yours." The ambulance arrived 30 minutes later. Tyler was stable enough to transport. As the EMTs loaded him up, I pulled out my checkbook. My hands were shaking. "Please, let me give you something. Anything. Name the amount." Delilah put her hand over mine, stopping me. "I didn't do it for money, Mr. Whitmore." I froze. "You know who I am. Saw your face on a Forbes magazine in the hospital waiting room tonight." She smiled gently. "You were on the cover. Real Estate King Expands Empire. That was you, wasn't it?" I nodded, feeling ashamed for reasons I couldn't fully name. "I don't want your money," Delilah said, "but I do want something. Anything. Remember this feeling. Remember what it's like to be powerless. Remember that all your money, all your success couldn't save your son. Remember that a janitor and a nurse did." She stepped closer, and her voice was gentle but firm. "You write checks to hospitals, Mr. Whitmore. Big, generous checks that get your name on walls. But do you know the people who actually keep those places running? The janitors, the orderlies, the nurses working doubles? Do you see us?" I couldn't answer, because the truth was, I didn't. I never had. "Your money built wings on buildings," she continued, "but did it ever build bridges between people?" I rode with Tyler to County General, spent the night in a chair beside his bed, watching him breathe, thanking God or the universe or whatever power had put Delilah in that hallway at exactly the right moment. When Tyler woke up the next morning, groggy but alive, the first thing he said was, "Dad, you're still here." Those words hit harder than any business failure ever had. He was surprised I'd stayed. That's what our relationship had become. "I'm here," I said, gripping his hand. "I'm not going anywhere." We talked for hours that day, really talked. Maybe for the first time since Caroline died. Tyler told me he resented my wealth, how it built walls between us and everyone else, how he felt like just an accessory to my success story, how lonely he'd been, growing up with everything except the one thing that mattered. "Dad, you're so rich you forgot how to be human," he said. It wasn't cruel, just honest. And that made it cut deeper. He was right. I'd spent so long accumulating power that I'd forgotten what it was for. I'd built an empire but lost sight of why any of it mattered. 6 months have passed since that night. 6 months that have changed everything. I established a foundation called Jerome's Promise, named after Delilah's son. But this isn't just another vanity charity where I write checks and show up for photo ops. I reformed the payment policies at St. Benedict's and 3 other hospitals, created an emergency care access fund so no parent ever has to hear, "We can't help you," while their child is dying. Hired Delilah as community outreach director because she knows these issues better than any consultant I could hire. Rochelle now heads our patient advocacy program, making sure people have voices in a system that often ignores them. Tyler volunteers there every week. We work together now, rebuilding our relationship through service instead of just shared DNA. He's teaching me how to see people I used to walk past, how to listen instead of just speaking, how to be present instead of just being powerful. Delilah and I have become friends, real friends. She still calls me out when I slip into old habits, when I start talking about people like they're problems to solve instead of humans to help. She keeps me grounded, keeps me humble, reminds me that the most important things in life can't be bought, built, or bargained for. Last week we had dinner at her apartment. Me, Tyler, Delilah, and Rochelle. Same worn couch, same chipped mugs, same warmth that had saved my son's life. We laughed about things that had nothing to do with money or status, just people being people. And I realized something profound. This tiny apartment held more real wealth than any penthouse I'd ever owned. You know what karma really is? It's not punishment. It's not the universe getting revenge. Karma is a mirror. It shows you exactly who you've been and forces you to decide who you want to become. That night at the hospital, I was shown exactly what I'd built. A life where my worth was measured in dollars, where my power stopped the moment the system said no, where the only person willing to help me was someone I'd never bothered to see. I spent decades building an empire, but I'd ignored the foundation. I'd accumulated wealth but lost sight of worth. It took nearly losing everything to understand what truly mattered. The billionaire was begging that night, broken and powerless. But the woman with nothing in her bank account gave everything that mattered: compassion, courage, and a second chance. I still run my business, I still close deals and sign contracts, but now I know the names of people who clean my offices. I sit down with security guards and ask about their families. I see the invisible labor that makes everything else possible, and I use my resources not to build monuments to myself, but to build systems that serve the people who've been overlooked. Tyler's in medical school now, focused on serving underserved communities. He wants to be the doctor who never turns anyone away. And I'm using my second chance to make sure fewer families face what Delilah faced with Jerome, what I faced with Tyler that terrible night. Delilah saved my son's life, but really she saved mine too. She taught me that dignity isn't for sale, that compassion doesn't check your bank account first, and that true wealth is measured in how you treat people when nobody's watching, when there's nothing in it for you, when it's just the right thing to do. So if this story touched something in you, hit that like button. Share it. Let's spread the message that humanity matters more than status, that kindness is the currency that truly changes lives. Subscribe for more stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and drop a comment below. Have you ever been helped by someone when you least expected it? Or have you been that person for someone else? Share your story. Let's remind each other that we're all one crisis away from needing someone else's kindness. Be that person. Be Delilah. Be the one who stops when everyone else walks past, because you never know when that choice will change everything. See you in the next one.